of the ANC comrades and a program of the MSA. And I think that's the culture that maybe moving forward we must adopt. I don't know if comrades maybe were shy. I think maybe the program director as well did not set the tone, perhaps. I think let's all take collective responsibility, but I think that we're in the same environment now, in the same energy. Comrades, my name is Kwara Kekana, as mentioned by the chairperson of the session, and I'm from BDS South Africa. Honorable Minister Mahlobo, His Excellency Ambassador Hashem Dajani, the PYA leadership in all its manifestations from national up until the branch level, the leadership of the Muslim Student Association on campus, the leadership of the Students' Representative Council at the University of Free State, I think all protocol observed, and my colleagues of course at BDS South Africa, Comrade Erasmus, Comrade Katlego, and Comrade Mohammed. Perhaps, comrades, allow me to start with dealing with one of the biggest misconceptions of the Palestine struggle before I get to the agenda of the day, or what my task is for today. I think first and foremost, the struggle for Palestinians' right to self-determination is not a religious issue. Fundamentally, it's a human rights issue, and I think that ought to be the point of departure. And it's fundamentally what the BDS movement is anchored on. It's a rights-based approach. And what does that mean? Number one, there is a legal case to be made as why Israel is an apartheid state. The 1973 United Nations Convention on the Suppression and Punishment of the Crimes of Apartheid provides a legal definition of what apartheid is. Simply, and I think it's a very broad definition, but I'll just take bits out of it, is the oppression of one racial group over the other. And in this particular case, we need not look at race in its simplistic form, but a broader definition of racial identity. It could pertain to nationality, ethnicity, gender, in this particular case, religion. Religion is simply used as a tool to discriminate, but it is not the basis of the conflict. So fundamentally, the Palestinian struggle is a human rights issue, and that ought to be the point of departure. And the short video, I think, captured clearly what the issue is. So the Zionist agenda seeks to establish a Jewish-only state. The number one problem is at the expense of an existing indigenous population. Number two, by wanting to establish a Jewish-only state, it means then non-Jews are then excluded. So if we say, for example, this venue ought to be only for Zulu-speaking people, it means then by default non-Zulus are excluded, if that example makes sense. So those are the two most fundamental problematic issues with the Zionist agenda. But I wanted us to then start with that. I'd like to quote the longest serving president of the African National Congress, President Oliver Tambo, in his address to the ANC external missions in 1971. Open quote. "We who are free to eat and sleep at will, to write, to speak, to travel as we please, we who are free to make or break a revolution, let us not use our comparative freedom not to perpetuate the misery of those who suffer, nor to give indirect aid to the enemy they fight by withholding our own contribution." Close quote. In 2005, Palestinians in their overwhelming majority issued a call to the international community to isolate Israel because of its apartheid policies, through a campaign of boycott, disinvestment, and sanctions, also known as BDS. The global BDS movement to isolate Israel was inspired by the anti-apartheid movement that successfully isolated South Africa because of its apartheid policies. Comrade Chairperson of the session, President Tambo reminds us of our internationalist duty that we have as peace-loving, justice-seeking peoples of the world. We have a revolutionary responsibility to actively participate and be engaged in deliberate efforts that would deliver a free Palestine. And this is the duty President Tambo speaks of in that particular quote. The global BDS movement entered its second decade in July this year. The BDS call issued in 2005 provided the following demands. The first demand was the end to the occupation. This speaks to the kind of Palestinians that are living in occupied Palestinian territories. The second demand is the end to the apartheid. They speak to the Palestinians living in what is Israel today. Then the third and final right is the right of return of Palestinian refugees, which speaks to basically Palestinian refugees. Comrade Chair, the anti-apartheid movement was about ordinary people on the ground working every single day towards the isolation of South Africa. At the same time, these activists even defied the official positions of some of their governments and chose to be on the right side of history. Today, the anti-apartheid movement is arguably one of the biggest human rights campaigns. The global BDS movement is registering significant victories that are making the pro-Israeli lobby, in particular in this country, panic. Some of the victories that have come out of South Africa, and I think maybe let's focus on the academic victories that have come out in South Africa because of the setting here today. In 2011, the University of Johannesburg votes to terminate relations with Israeli University, Ben Gurion University. 2011, the South African Union of Students, an umbrella body of all SRCs in the country, with over 20 university SRCs under it, adopts and endorses BDS. In 2011, SASCO, which also happens to be my political home, adopts BDS. In 2012, the VET SRC adopts full academic and cultural boycotts of Israel. In 2014, the UCT SRC adopts full academic and cultural boycotts of Israel. In 2015, the universities, SRCs of Mangosuthu University of Technology, the Cape Peninsula University of Technology, the Durban University of Technology, UNISA, and the University of the Western Cape also adopts full academic and cultural boycotts of Israel, comrades. And I think that deserves a round of applause. Comrade Chairperson of the session, I think I'm correct to believe that the leadership of the SRC of UFS is here. And I think this program also ought to lobby the SRC of UFS to also move in the same fashion. Right. To adopt full academic and cultural boycotts of Israel. And I learned that the University of Free State SRC is a PYA-led SRC. Which therefore means that the Young Communist League's position on the issue is non-negotiable. Israel is an apartheid state. Same applies to SASCO, same applies to the ANC Youth League. So there shouldn't be an issue. Of course, the EFF also has a position in BDS. So there shouldn't be an issue on this question. Israeli academic institutions are a key part of the ideological and institutional scaffolding of Israel's regime of occupation, colonialism, and apartheid policies against the Palestinian people. And I think maybe, comrades, in an attempt also to inspire discussions, I think one, what ought to be the role of academic institutions as part of solidarity efforts with the oppressed? Number two, what ought to be the role of progressive student organizations on campuses regarding international solidarity work? Is what we're doing enough? Comrade Chair, as I move towards conclusion, in 2014, the African National Congress resolved to exclude companies such as Caterpillar, G4S, Cape Gate from government business because of their involvement in the occupation and because they provide aid to the violation of Palestinian human rights. The ruling party, Comrade David Mahlobo, also resolved to discourage travel bans to Israel of all ministers, which includes yourself, deputy ministers, members of parliament, mayors, and all government officials. We hope that this position can also be translated to government policy. Furthermore, this position was also reiterated by President Zuma in his January 8 address this particular year. The BDS movement is growing at a supersonic speed, comrades. One of the biggest victories to come out of this year came yesterday morning. G4S, which is the largest security company in the world, one of the largest private employers in the world, which provides services at the Israeli checkpoints, the torture centers, detention facilities that house Palestinian political prisoners, has decided to pull out of Israel. This was an almost 10-year campaign that started in 2007, led by BDS activists around the world, putting pressure on G4S outside of Israel, calling on G4S to pull out of Israel. And this announcement comes at an opportune moment during Israeli Apartheid Week, when activities are heightened. Now, in conclusion, Chair, I think let's ask ourselves this question. Are we giving indirect aid to the Israeli regime in violations of Palestinian rights? Are we giving the enemy oxygen by withholding our own contribution in the fight for a free Palestine? I think perhaps let's reflect on that. Mandla.